I was standing at my own front door, a suitcase heavy in my hand, the key in my pocket suddenly useless. Behind me, my 23-year-old son, my only child, just a year clear of cancer, told me, "You've done enough, Mom. It's time to go." 30 seconds earlier, I'd walked in to drop off groceries, humming a tune as I navigated the familiar entryway. 30 seconds later, I was homeless. If you think surviving cancer is the hardest thing a family can ever face, believe me, you haven't heard what comes after. Let me rewind to that morning. Dr. Patel called. Remission. The word felt like a gasp of pure oxygen after 2 years of holding our breath, a constant, crushing weight in our chests. I'd quit my teaching job without a second thought, refinanced the house not once but twice, and learned to mix chemo cocktails in our kitchen sink, treating it like a makeshift pharmacy. My husband, Mark, worked double shifts, sometimes triple, just so we could cling to our insurance, our lifeline. We were a machine, Mark and I, built for one singular purpose: keep Ethan alive. That day, when the doctor finally said the scans were clear, Ethan squeezed my hand, a weak but firm grip, and joked, "Guess you're stuck with me, Mom." We laughed then, an uncontrollable, ugly, happy crying kind of laugh that tasted like relief and exhaustion all at once. That night, we threw a party in the backyard, strung up dollar store streamers, and even had a cake shaped like a CT scan, a morbid but triumphant inside joke. I remember thinking, we're done with hospitals, we're done with fear. We can finally breathe. I slept deeper that night than I had since the very first diagnosis, a sleep so profound it felt like healing itself. For 3 glorious months, Ethan truly glowed. It was like he was soaking up every ray of sunshine he'd missed. He enrolled in 2 online classes, started jogging every morning, even flirted, quite charmingly, with the barista at the corner cafe. We thought, this is it. This is the new normal. Then, ever so subtly, small things started to shift. He asked me to knock before entering his room, something he hadn't done since middle school, a childish habit long forgotten. He quit the survivorship support group, dismissing it with a wave of his hand, saying, "I'm not a project, Mom. I'm fine." One evening, I found him on the porch, staring up at the stars like they owed him money, his face etched with something I couldn't quite decipher. When I dared to ask what was wrong, he snapped, "Can't I just exist without an interrogation?" My heart ached, but I blamed it on survivor's guilt, on all the textbooks and online forums that warned us about the psychological aftermath. I made his favorite chili, leaving it on the stove with a sticky note. "Proud of you every single day." The next morning, the pot was scraped clean, but the note lay crumpled in the trash. It was a tiny paper cut, but it stung. The house on Maple Lane, a 3-bedroom ranch with cracked stucco and a mailbox shaped like a cat, wasn't just bricks and mortar. Ethan was 6 when we moved in, a wide-eyed boy who immediately claimed the smallest room because it had a spaceship light fixture that glowed in the dark. During his treatment, that house became our fortress, our sanctuary. We painted the hallway a bright, cheerful yellow, hoping IV bruises wouldn't be the only color he saw. I installed motion sensor nightlights so his steroid-induced hunger strikes wouldn't send him crashing into walls in the dark. Every creak of the floorboards, every whispered conversation, carried memories of 3 a.m. temperature checks and hushed prayers. I remember telling Mark, my voice thick with emotion, "Even if we lose everything else, we keep this house. It's part of the protocol, part of him." We fought foreclosure twice, scratching and clawing to hold on to it. I picked up every weekend tutoring gig I could find. Mark sold his beloved truck, the one he'd painstakingly restored. That house was more than just equity. It was the silent witness to our war, a testament to every battle we'd won and every tear we'd shed. It was our history, our future, our everything. Lexi showed up 5 months post-remission, a whirlwind of petite bluntness and an allergy to gluten. She brought oat milk lattes and called me Mrs. G, like we were all characters in some teen drama. Ethan, my quiet, sometimes withdrawn Ethan, absolutely lit up around her, cracking jokes I hadn't heard since his high school days. I invited her to Sunday lasagna, hoping that normal family rituals, the simple rhythm of shared meals, would help anchor him, bring him back to us. She picked at a salad, politely declining the lasagna with a crisp, "I don't do carbs." After dinner, she cornered me in the kitchen, her voice a low whisper. "He needs boundaries, Mrs. G," she said, her eyes intense. "He's still being treated like a patient, you know." I tried to laugh it off, a forced, uncomfortable sound. But later that night, I found Ethan's laptop open to a search result. Emancipation from overbearing parents. My stomach dropped harder than the day we heard the word malignancy. The ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling. The first request seemed harmless enough. "Can you knock?" A simple boundary, I told myself. Then came, "Don't post about my scans on Facebook." "All right, privacy," I reasoned. And then, the one that truly stung. "Stop introducing me as your cancer kid." Each rule, taken in isolation, seemed reasonable, understandable even. But stacked together, one on top of the other, they began to form an impenetrable wall between us. I tried to compromise. I really did. I texted before visiting his room, used vague captions like "family milestone" when celebrating his good news. But every accommodation I made, every effort to bridge the growing gap, seemed to birth a new complaint, a new demand. One afternoon, Lexi pulled me aside again, this time on the driveway, her voice softer, but no less firm. "He wants to feel independent," she explained, as if I were a clueless child. "Maybe move out?" I stared at her, dumbfounded. I reminded her, perhaps a little too sharply, that I paid the mortgage. She simply shrugged, her expression unfazed. "Ownership and control aren't the same thing, Mrs. G." That night, I told Mark we desperately needed family therapy. He just rubbed my shoulder, his gaze distant. "Give him time," he murmured, more to himself than to me. "He's just figuring out who he is." I didn't sleep a wink, the words echoing in my mind, a chilling premonition. 2 weeks later, Ethan asked for a family meeting. He sat at the dining table, a yellow legal pad spread before him like a lawyer preparing for court. Lexi perched beside him, a silent, unwavering ally. Item 1 on his agenda. He wanted primary access to the master suite for its attached bath. Chemo, he explained clinically, had left him with bladder sensitivity. Item 2. He needed the garage, our garage, for a photography studio. Item 3. I, his mother, should consider downsizing to the basement. I waited for the punchline, a wry smile, a hint of a joke. None came. Mark, ever the peacemaker, tried to intervene. "Ethan, let's slow down a bit," he said gently. But Ethan's voice, when he spoke again, cracked. Not from weakness, but from an undeniable, chilling steel. "I'm 23, he stated, his eyes fixed on mine. "I need space to heal. My space." What I heard, clear as a bell, was, "You're the reminder I never wanted. You're the past I need to escape." I came home from grocery shopping on a Tuesday, the mundane rhythm of my week shattered in an instant. Ethan met me at the door, a locksmith standing awkwardly behind him. "We changed the locks," he said, his voice flat. My brain couldn't stitch the words together, couldn't comprehend what I was hearing. He handed me an envelope. Cash for a hotel, my name scrawled on the front like a birthday card. A cruel twist of irony. Lexi hovered in the hallway, clutching my favorite mixing bowl, a cherished wedding gift, like it was a trophy she'd just won. I looked from her to Ethan, my voice a thin whisper. "Is this a joke?" Ethan's eyes were cold, devoid of warmth. But I saw his hands tremble, just slightly. "I can't breathe with you here, Mom," he confessed, his words cutting deeper than any knife. "Every corner of this house, it just smells like chemo." I dropped the milk, the carton bursting across the tile, white everywhere, a stark, shocking contrast against the kitchen floor. Just like the confetti we'd thrown the day we celebrated remission. He stepped over the puddle, not even glancing down, and said again, with a finality that echoed in my soul, "You've done enough, Mom. Time to go." Mark was at work, blissfully unaware, his phone going straight to voicemail. I sat on the curb outside my own house, clutching my car keys and a tub of Greek yogurt I bought, because Ethan liked the cartoon goat on the label. Neighbors drove by, waving cheerfully, completely oblivious that I'd just been evicted from my own life. I drove to a Super 8, the cheapest place I could find, took a shower until the hot water ran out, and then stared at the popcorn ceiling for 6 agonizing hours. When Mark finally reached me, his voice laced with panic, he raced home, but Ethan wouldn't open the door. The next morning, a lawyer's letter waited in our mailbox, a cruel twist of fate. An eviction notice citing an occupant dispute, claiming I had abandoned residence. The ink on the page smelled like betrayal, a bitter, metallic scent that clung to my memory. We hired a family law attorney, a kind but weary woman who looked at us with sympathy. "Blood doesn't beat tenancy," she explained, her voice gentle but firm. "Turns out, inviting your adult child to live with you, even while you might refinancing to pay off chemo bills, grants them tenant rights after 30 days of receiving mail at that address. We could fight it," she told us. "But the judge might force a formal eviction that could drag on for months, shredding what little relationship remained between us." Mark, his face tight with suppressed rage, wanted to fight, to reclaim what was rightfully ours. But I, broken and exhausted, just wanted to fold. Every legal document, every form, every proposed motion felt like pumping poison back into Ethan's veins, reliving the trauma we'd fought so hard to overcome. We settled. We'd keep the title to the house, he'd pay the utilities, and we'd stay elsewhere until he found a plan. I signed the papers on the same oncology floor where he had once coded, where his life had hung by a thread. The nurse who had saved his life walked past, waved, but didn't recognize me through the blur of my tears. It felt like the ultimate erasure. We rented a 1-bedroom flat across town, a sterile, unfamiliar space that felt nothing like home. I got a job at a private school, trying to find some semblance of routine, some purpose beyond motherhood. Mark, his quiet rage simmering just beneath the surface, seemed to turn gray right before my eyes. Weeks bled into months, each day a slow, agonizing crawl. Ethan, meanwhile, posted photos on social media, candlelit dinners in our dining room, Lexi laughing, garland draped on our banister. I liked every single picture. A digital flag stubbornly waving, saying, "I'm still here, I haven't forgotten." One night, I scrolled past a new caption. "Finally feels like home." It was a punch to the gut. I hurled the phone across the room, the screen cracking like a spiderweb, exactly like the windshield of our car the night we rushed Ethan to the ER with a fever of 105. In the fractured reflection of the screen, I saw myself, thinner, older, but breathing, still breathing. I deactivated my account, cutting off the digital umbilical cord. The next morning, I bought some pots and planted tomatoes on the apartment balcony. The feel of dirt under my nails felt like starting over, a tangible connection to life. On the anniversary of his diagnosis, a date etched permanently into my memory, I mailed Ethan a card, a plain white envelope, no return address, just his name. Inside, I tucked a photo of us the day he rang the remission bell, our cheeks mashed together, grinning like lottery winners. I wrote, "Ethan, I'm so incredibly proud of you for choosing life on your terms. When you're ready, truly ready, I'm here. No questions, no guilt, just love." I didn't expect an answer. Not really. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed at 2:03 a.m. A text message. I miss yellow hallways. No apology, no explanation, just those 5 words. But it was a crack of light, a tiny fissure in the wall he'd built. I typed and deleted 17 replies, my thumbs hovering over the screen, before finally sending a simple message. They're still here if you need them. Read. No response. Yet. Ethan still lives in the house. Our house. Mark and I still rent the flat across town. We keep the mortgage current, a silent agreement, and he wires utilities through Venmo with emojis of cameras and broccoli, a strange modern form of communication. Therapy, for Mark and me, has taught me that survival doesn't always look like reunion. Sometimes it's just 2 adults choosing not to weaponize grief, choosing peace over a protracted war. I've started dating the potted tomatoes. They ripen much faster than apologies ever will. Last week, I drove past Maple Lane and saw Ethan mowing the lawn. That same uneven pattern he swore he'd affix when he was 12. I didn't stop. I couldn't. But I rolled the window down and inhaled the scent of fresh-cut grass. It smelled like possibility. If you're a parent out there, wondering where your story went off script, know this. Loving a child through illness, fighting tooth and nail for their life, doesn't guarantee smooth landing strips. Sometimes, the runway ends in a cliff, and you find yourself building wings on the way down. If you've faced your own cliff moments, your own unexpected crashes, share how you survived in the comments below. And if you're looking for more raw, honest family stories that skip the sugarcoating, make sure to subscribe. We're all just trying to find our way home, even when the locks change.